FC25 once again brings a bunch of options when it comes to controller settings, and if you're looking for a guide that gives you the best settings while at the same time explaining things and weighing the options against each other, then you've come to the right place. Let's dive right in. First things first, we have the preset. This should be on competitive because that's what is used online by default. Next up is shot assistance. Now last year a new option was added here, which is called precision shooting. Basically, aiming your shots is more manual, so you need to actually aim at the goal, but therefore when you do that successfully, your shots are rewarded with more power and accuracy. I've played with precision for the entire FC24 season, and I'm going to continue now in FC25. Although I think assisted finishing is a bit better this year than it was last, so you can definitely play unassisted as well. My recommendation is assisted for beginner and intermediate players, and then for those of you who are very experienced and composed inside the box, I recommend precision so that you can squeeze those extra few percent out of your finishes. By the way guys, if you're looking to become an intermediate or really strong player, I can only recommend you to check out the Guide Plus, where we are posting in-depth courses on the fundamentals of the game as well as the latest meta techniques. The FC25 Season Pass is currently on a huge release sale, so don't miss out on that, link down below. Moving on, time finishing should be turned on, no question, because always having the option to press your shooting button a second time and getting a better finish is just an advantage without any real downside. And then for both the through pass as well as the lob through pass assistance, I recommend semi, which is the most assisted setting available. If you want to play manual through balls, you have the precision passing option for that. Ground pass assistance should be set to assisted. You don't want any headaches with your normal passes. And for crossing, you should use semi so that you can decide if you want to cross near or far post, and in general have a bit more control over your crosses. Lob pass assistance plays a role when you play those side switches or chips over defenders. Assisted is totally fine here. I personally like semi because when playing those chips over the defense, I get a little bit more control over the ball and can make sure that it doesn't go too long so that my player can receive the ball rather than needing to win a header. For the pass receiver lock, I definitely recommend late because you want to be able to make last second adjustments to where your pass actually goes. So when you power up a pass and you see that the opponent covers it, you can actually switch the passing target instead of playing it into the defender's feet. Precision passes were another new feature that got introduced last year. If you don't use them, this setting doesn't really matter. I personally like the lob precision passes with R1 plus triangle or RB plus Y, and I find that I can use them better with high sensitivity. Now, clearance assistance definitely on directional, so you don't accidentally clear the ball into your own net. And then we have the interesting decision between tactical and advanced defending. Again, advanced defending got introduced in FC24, and it basically splits up tackles that you still do with circle or B, and then shoulder challenges that you now do with X or A. I do think the shoulder challenges are once again very strong this year, and so if you execute everything perfectly, I believe that advanced defending definitely gives you an advantage. However, there are many situations in which you can make the wrong decision between tackling or trying to seal out the attacker, and you'll concede because of it. I've certainly conceded these goals, but I like the challenge and the control that advanced defending gives. So once again, if you are a beginner or intermediate player, I recommend tactical, and if you're very good and want to master those extra few percent, then go for advanced defending. Pass block assistance should definitely be turned on. This just helps you immensely with interceptions. Auto switching, you have quite a few options and it's mainly preference. Fully manual is fine, air balls is fine, and air balls and loose balls, which I'm currently playing, is good as well. It just depends on how many switches you want to make yourself. Now, the move assistance applies to situations in which you get an auto switch, which is especially important for air balls. Let's say you're pressing the opponent and moving towards him when suddenly he plays a long through ball that you weren't aware of. Now, the move assistance will make sure that the defender you got switched to runs backwards and tracks the through ball instead of immediately running into the forward direction that your left stick is still pointing towards. So I recommend low for this one to give yourself some time to react to airball switches. For right stick switching, you should use classic in my opinion. Player rotation is just too slow, And then adaptive is not bad, and being able to adjust the distance of your switch can be nice, but still it's a bit too slow and clunky in my opinion. For the reference point, I have always used player relative, and I think it's the easiest and most consistent because the ball is always moving and you don't always know where. Sensitivity I have at the default 4. Last year I tried out higher and lower numbers and they just didn't seem to be working for me, so my tip is to leave it at this. Next, player switching, I recommend the default classic setting as well. Once again, I tried out closest to ball and goal side last year when they got introduced, and they have their moments, but compared to classic, they're just overall worse in my opinion, so trust me on this and use classic. Now next up we have a very interesting new setting, the reaction time modifier. Do you know those situations when you see a player that has the little transparent icon above their head and you press L1 or LB to switch to them confidently, and suddenly you get a totally different player because the icon switched to that player last second? This new setting is there to combat that. So basically with the sensitivity setting you can determine how much delay in your quick switches should be accounted for. With a low value, you will get the new player that the icon just switched to, so similar to how it has always been. With a higher value, you will more likely get the old player that just had the icon. So in general, I think this is a great setting and you should turn it on because it will make your switching more consistent. In terms of the sensitivity value, you need to do some testing for yourself and see if you're getting the switches you want. If you typically get the new player you didn't want, then increase the value. And if you get the old player instead of the new one that you wanted, then decrease the value. I currently play with 6 sensitivity. Okay, moving on to the player lock, keep this one turned on so that you can use player lock when you want to. If you know that you never use this feature, then you can turn it off as well, but it's worth to learn it. Safe assistance doesn't matter online. Analog sprint I would keep turned off now that we got controlled sprint. Trigger effect and user vibration feedback off. Alright, now that you got the best FC25 controller settings set up, it's time to master the new tactical system FC IQ as well. Our in-depth guide on it is linked right here. See you there.